Now on Rockin' Manooch on Fox Sports 910 on FM at 99.9 HD2.
So our next guest, Rudy Carpenter, joins us on Mondays here on Rockin' Manooch with Jimmy B. He'll be our first to give us his prediction for the week. So he's our first guest to start the week out on Monday here. But before we do that, I would love to get your take, Rudy, on Kliff Kingsbury, now named the offensive coordinator for Washington, where previously it had been reported it was the Raiders. Do you see him being the next up-and-coming offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I don't know. I have a little bit of inside information on that because one of the coaches that we represent worked for the Las Vegas Raiders and actually sat in on the interview with Kliff Kingsbury with the Raiders. And then he had an interview set up with Kliff to try to be a tight end coach. And it just seemed like they couldn't come to an agreement financially from a numbers standpoint, which I thought was just interesting because I just don't know what kind of money Kliff is looking for, considering the trajectory of his career so far. But I think it's a really interesting hire because obviously the Commanders are starting over with Dan Quinn, who I think is a really good football coach. But this is also an organization that is going to have to probably take a quarterback. I believe they have, the second pick in the draft or something like that. Right. Third pick, I don't know what it is.
Second, yeah.
Point being is they're probably taking a quarterback with that pick. There's some interesting guys, whether it's Caleb Williams, whether it's Drake May. There's some interesting guys in this draft. But for me personally, I just don't see Kliff Kingsbury, I don't believe Kliff is a quarterback developer. I believe Kliff is a good college coach that has found a way to simplify the game. He's found a way to simplify route concepts, simplify pass protection, simplify the route game, the pass protections and run game. And it's able to take young kids and get them out there and play really fast and really confidently. And to me, that's not conducive with what the NFL is. These coaches in the NFL are too good. They're too prepared. And going out to a game with that little play card you see Kliff has with 7 plays on it, to me, just is not going to work in the NFL. Kliff, to me, is better off in college, and I just don't think this is gonna. I really don't believe it's going to work out for him with Washington, and I think ultimately you're going to see him go back to college, which is probably where he belongs.
All right, Rudy, let me follow up with one point that you referenced, and that was about they're going to take a quarterback. Kingsbury, obviously, at USC with Caleb Williams. Does this mean that the Chicago Bears, who have the number 1 pick, and the Washington Commanders, who are at number 2, make a trade deal so that they can take Caleb Williams, who seems to really like being around Kliff Kingsbury?
I honestly, I don't have any idea. If they want to make the trade, I'm sure they could. They're going to have to give an awful lot in order to move up and take that pick. If anybody knows, Caleb Williams, it's probably going to be Kliff, being the fact that he was with him for this year in Los Angeles. But to me, there's still way too many things that would have to play out in order for us to even get to that scenario. I think this hire was more just because I think Dan Quinn looked around. He saw the landscape. He saw the coaches who were available. I think he felt like there's not a ton of guys available. Look, and I don't mean to sound like a negative Nancy too much, but the Chicago Bears were atrocious last year, if you ask me. And Luke Getsy was their offensive coordinator, and he just got rehired with the Raiders to be their coordinator. And so I look at it and I just say, this is recycling of coaches, and obviously there's just not a ton of guys left. You look at the Seattle Seahawks, I believe it was, just tried to interview Mike Kafka for their OC job with the Giants, and and he got declined by the Giants. He got blocked to even go do that interview. So I guess what I'm getting at is, to me, it just looks like that there's not really a ton of great coordinators even out there and available right now. And so this was like the best of the worst in my viewpoint.
Rudy Carpenter joining us here on the right, to the guest line, Rock Minucci, Jimmy P. 3. Rudy, looking at this game overall, I mean, everybody talks about common denominators, CMC for the Niners, Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. Can we not throw the coaching in as a common denominator to Andy Reid, what he's done in his Super Bowls, and Kyle Shanahan, what he's not done in his Super Bowls and as an offensive coordinator? How do you look at that concept as far as the coaching aspect in this game?
Yeah, I think it's a really big deal. I'm not going to sit here and throw any rocks at Kyle Shanahan for what he hasn't done in Super Bowls or whatever. I mean, the guy's a great coach, if you ask me. Andy Reid, I mean, if you would have told Andy Reid 15 years ago that he was going to leave Philadelphia, go to Kansas City, and then turn into one of the greats of all time and a Hall of Fame coach, I think even he, would have been a little bit surprised. But the point is Andy's had an incredible resurgence, and he's obviously been partnered up with one of the great players, maybe two of the greatest players in NFL history, in Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And Mahomes is still a very young player. And then you look at Kyle Shanahan, obviously comes from a lineage of Mike Shanahan. He's very experienced. He's been around a lot of football. The lineage of his coaching tree, guys like LaFleur and guys like Sean McVay and even Mike McDaniels. I mean, all those guys are really doing a great job right now. I think this is going to be, an incredible football game. And I think when you have teams that are this evenly matched, and then you add in all the analytics stuff that all these coaches are now relying on, I think this game, you could see it come down to a couple decisions or even one decision that a coaching staff makes on a big situation that could ultimately dictate the outcome of the football game.
With that being said, give us the score of the game. Winner and the score of the game.
Oh,
come on, Rudy. You've
been doing this the last 15 years with us, Rudy.
You've been close every year.
I'm gonna go 28-24 Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, he's going KC 28-24. Rudy, good stuff, man. Thanks as always. Appreciate your time, and have a great week.
All right, guys. Take care.
That's Rudy Carpenter joining us here. You can follow him on Twitter. He's very active. Rudy G. Carp 12, former Sun Devil. Appreciate his time today. And he is brought to you today by All City Towing. If you're looking for a career that pays great with incredible benefits, All City Towing continues to look for new people to join their team. So head to allcitytowing.com and search careers. That's All City Towing, statewide service, and they answer your call 24/7. allcitytowing.com. Coming up, it's football at 50 as the 49ers